Alright, I read Kaiju number 8, volumes 7 and 8 this winter slash summer slash whatever season I read those in. I don't know if I have a whole lot to say about Kaiju number 8 that I haven't already said. I mean, I think it is a really good action series. I think it's going to have a lot of wide appeal, and it might even reach levels of something like Demon Slayer if the anime turns out really good. I guess I just kind of think that, similar to Demon Slayer, it's a very, proficient series, I guess. I mean, the artwork is quality. I really like the art style a lot. And, I like aspects such as the main character being older than high school. But yeah, I mean, I just don't have a whole lot to say about volumes 7 and 8. It has been a few months since I read them, and so my memory is a little fuzzy on those. I will say, though, one element in it that I really like is, to go off of the title of Kaiju number 8, there are these, numbered kaiju that exist in this universe. And you kind of start to learn more about numbers 1 through 7 as we're going on, because as it turns out, the government/military has been, trying to weaponize these past kaiju. And I think it's really interesting how the manga does this, how they turn them into, physical, handheld weapons, an axe or a spear or something, and it gets used to fight more kaiju in the future. I really like things like that. I really like when, an action series like that sets up, a set number of enemies or characters who are all going to play a significant role later on. So yeah, I will keep on going with Kaiju number 8. It's not a top priority read for me when new volumes come in, but I'm still liking it. Alright, it's time to talk about Komi again. And we're at the point now where I can't really talk about Komi without talking about some level of spoilers for it. I know it sounds weird that there even are spoilers in a series like Komi, but if you don't want to know what's going on beyond volume 23, then I would say to skip this part of the video. So, in my last video about Komi, I hinted how things changed irreversibly after volume 23, and that was the biggest change. And well, to actually put it into words now, Komi and Tadano actually start dating, officially. I feel like such a high schooler, talking about these characters, can you believe they started dating? Oh my god, everybody knew they were going to, but now they actually are. It's Facebook official. Anyway, I mentioned also how I thought this would be something that would never happen in a series like this. And I still stand by that. I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised. Because usually a series like this, or Nagatoro or Ayumu, those other ones I read this past season, they'll kind of be about giving you kind of a bland male main character so that the reader can make him a self-insert and oh, what if you got to spend time with this great girl that you had a crush on? Very much like a self-insert fantasy. And I feel in series like that, they never actually have the characters start dating until maybe the very end of the series. Because that kind of I don't know, it kind of destroys that image of the idealized female character for a lot of these readers, I think. I think a lot of people live in that zone of this is your personal fantasy and you should pretend that this is your life. And if the female character starts dating another guy, you can't have that fantasy anymore. But for normal people like me who don't fantasize like that as they're reading a series like this, for those normal people among us who are not fantasizing about dating the high schoolers, this is just oh, how nice for them. Anyway, I think that development really breathed some much needed life into the series. Because, like I said, it kind of feels like it spins its wheels a lot. I think Komi still has a few dozen more friends to make in her book of 100 friends after well over 300 chapters. So I'll be curious to see where that goes. I think probably in another few volumes the characters are going to be going off to college, which could be another interesting new spin on the series. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I do own Komi Volume 1. I don't know if I'm ever gonna buy more volumes of the series, just because it's so long and that would be such an investment. But I've actually thought about buying just volume 23 just for how, like, significant that was in the series. I never buy manga volumes out of order, but this is like one of those rare cases where I kind of want to make an exception. Now, yet another manga in the category of ongoing reads that I started years ago and finally decided to wrap up. I continued reading Dragonhead. I actually have not finished Dragonhead yet. I was last reading it at the end of August. I do still intend to go back to it. I do still intend to go back and finish it. But I think it has just kind of like not fully been living up to my expectations from how much I've heard it hyped up in the past. It basically starts out with some like high schoolers who are on a class trip, and when they're on a train, like going back to school or whatever, the train crashes in a tunnel and like the tunnel collapses, and it's kind of just about, I think, 3 survivors trying to get out and escape, and they do finally get out into the world, and they realize that some kind of like horrible apocalyptic event has happened and maybe the whole world has been destroyed. I kind of dropped off on it because like it got to a point where these kids started like meeting up with other survivors out in the world, and there's this recurring thing in manga that I cannot stand. I've seen this several times where like when you're reading a post-apocalypse story or something like that, so many characters just turn into complete pieces of shit, like for no reason. It feels like it's trying to do kind of an artistic statement, like something like I Am a Hero does, where like, oh, this is about society breaking down. Like when the physical society has been destroyed, people's like moral fiber also breaks down, and just I don't really buy into that. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll never know until something like this actually happens, but I feel like if some kind of apocalyptic event happened in the real world, everyone would not just turn into a relentless murderer, thief, and rapist. That last part is what especially turns me off of lots of manga that deal with that kind of subject matter. I think I got to a chapter like that in Dragonhead, and I was just like, man, come on. Anyway, I will finish it. It's not a very long series, but I can't guarantee I will have a very high opinion of it. Oh, you know what else I bought this year? You know what else I bought this summer? I bought a box set. And boy, this one will probably play very awkwardly with the green screen. Okay, I think that's stable enough. Pretend you can still see Goodbye Eri under there. Anyway, this one also came with this little doodad, which is pretty neat. Now this one, you know, I famously have talked about this one in all of my past recap videos. It is a series that I really love, and I'm about to do something here that I probably shouldn't do. I'm about to jinx myself by telling you that I plan to make a longer video focusing entirely on this series to kind of get more of my thoughts out about it. And I want it to be something like really in-depth and personal. And every time I say that I'm going to do something like this, every time I talk in a video about how I plan to make another video about blank, that project ends up falling apart. So, hopefully I'm not making another, like, empty promise here, but I fully intend at this point to continue working on a full-length Nagatoro deep dive. So hopefully I can tell you to stay tuned for that. That's just kind of like your little teaser here in this episode of Trooth's Manga Cafe. Okay, I got to volume 2 of a manga called Magical Girl Incident. This is one where, like, I was really pleasantly surprised by volume 1. I had heard nothing about the series. I just picked it up based on the cover and the summary, and ended up really liking it. I'm on volume 2 now, and it's getting a little shakier at this point. To basically recap the story of it, it's about this, like, you know, 30-ish-year-old office worker who inexplicably gains the power to transform into a magical girl when he's trying to save somebody one day. And it's a pretty funny, just overall comedic series. The way it started to lose me a little in volume 2 is it kind of gets really involved in this contrived magic system. It's kind of like in Hunter x Hunter, how they talk about how there's like, I don't know, like 6 to 8 different types of nen or whatever. And honestly, even after having that whole system explained to me, I didn't really get how it worked. I was just like, yeah, whatever. People have powers, and they're gonna use those powers in different ways, and some powers are gonna be better at fighting others. Whatever. And Magical Girl Incident 2 is now kind of getting bogged down in that idea, where it's like, oh, the reader really needs to understand the magic system and how different types of magic interact with others. And I'm like, I don't really care. I just wanted to see more of like the funny hijinks of the dude trying to balance his office work life with his magical girl save the world life. That's what I'm there for. I don't need to know the details of how the magic works. Anyway, I do still recommend this series to people though. I'm gonna give it another volume or two and see if it gets funnier or if it continues to get more bogged down in mechanics. And this is apparently like a really lesser known series. Like I looked on my anime list and like barely anybody has given this manga any ratings. So if you want to try out something lesser known and want to read it in physical print, you can. You can check out Magical Girl Incident. Alright, now I read Spy Family Volume 10 this season, and let me show you something interesting I bought. I bought 3 volumes of Spy Family that are in Japanese. Look at that, wow, like actual Japanese print in this book. Can you believe it? Anyway, there's probably people watching this who are like, that's not unbelievable at all, I import manga all the time. What's unbelievable about this is I did not import this. I ordered this from a physical bookstore in the United States. The way I found out about it was I saw that a box set of the first 4 volumes of Spy Family released recently, and so I was kind of trying to search up and find out, are they going to make more box sets in the future? Because if so, that might be how I end up collecting this series, kind of like I do with Nagatoro here. And in my searching, I found a 1 to 3 volume bundle, which was weird because it's like, I was like, why did they make a first 4 volumes box set and a first 3 volumes box set? And as it turned out, the 3 volume box set that you can order in like major US bookstores is in Japanese. And like, I can't find any indication that these were meant to be sold outside of Japan. I'm wondering if they got sent to the US by mistake or something. You know, there isn't like a US dollars price on the back of them at all, just the price in yen. So these fully seem like volumes that were meant to be sold in Japan and that we somehow got over here. Anyway, yeah, if you watched my past manga recap videos, I was famously wrong about the Spy Family anime catching up to the English-released volumes. That did not in fact happen. Although they cut it very close. I think the last season of anime that came out got through about volume 9, and this was at a time when we only had 10 volumes out. Anyway, Spy Family is still a high priority read for me. It is a series that I'm considering collecting in the future, but I don't know, I might wait and see if it is going to come to a conclusion at any point, see if it's going to continue for like 100+ volumes, because when it comes to buying manga, I'm, for the most part, kind of a completionist. I don't want to buy like just 1 or 2 volumes of a long-running series I like. I want to have the whole thing on the shelf. So some series I don't buy just because of how long they are. See something like Komi or like One Piece. Like, I'll read One Piece, but I'm probably just going to read it digitally instead of buying the physical volumes, because that is such an expensive investment. But it is cool to have just like these 3 Japanese volumes, just as kind of a novelty. Thanks for watching another installment, everybody. Make sure to give me $1 on Patreon if you too want to be a certified Trooth fairy. Would you believe me if I told you the final video in this set is actually gonna be fully edited by the time you're seeing this one? What a good job I'm doing. So uncharacteristic of me. Anyway, I'm now gonna turn it over to Charlie and he'll tell you about some manga he was reading last year.